Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Okay. Okay. Oh, it's been a day. It's been a day. It's been a day. It's a glorious day. Wow, man. 542. Hello? Hello. You were a little early. I had the stream up so you can like jump in early and wait for it up a few hours ago, and I guess I don't know if he thought I was live or something. But how you doing, Wow Man? How you doing? So for those of you who are just joining us, okay, which is everyone because it just started the stream, today's going to be a YouTube exclusive. Why is it going to be a YouTube exclusive, you may ask? Well, last time, Counterpoints got a little heated and said some no naughty words, and yeah, we're just not gonna fuck around with that. But yeah. Hope everyone's doing well. We are going to be talking about free speech today and immigration and deportation and the limits, if any, of free speech when it comes to immigrants who are here either illegally, legally, what have you, right? We're going to be talking about Mahmoud Khalil specifically a little bit. Me and Counterpoints have, let's say, different ideas on the fairness and the morality around this. And he's graciously agreed to join me in about 3 minutes here to talk about the issue. It should be a fun discussion, should be an interesting discussion. Zero Fuck says, wow. Wow. I don't know how wow that is, but that's what we're doing. That's what we're going to do. Here, let me send him a little DM. See if he's ready. And get him in here. Give me a second. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Just jump backstage whenever you are ready, sir. Am I exposing the DMs? I exposed the DM I just sent him by talking it out as I typed it. Sorry, gang. It's a weird day. It's a weird day. I am kind of tired. I have been watching the rollout of the deportations and how this administration has been handling it. And it is exhausting because it is one of the most incompetent things I've ever seen in my whole entire life. And look, the government is full of incompetence, okay? Incompetence and government go kind of hand in hand in a lot of ways. But the way that they have done this combines incompetence and cruelty in a way that has really, really upset me. So I have been a little on edge, a little upset, a little angry, if you will, a little less charitable. I'm trying to work on that. Right? Because even if I'm upset, doesn't mean I shouldn't be charitable to people and to things and things like that. But it does rub me the wrong way. It bothers me on a fundamental level when people are willing to defend not just incompetence, but reckless disregard for due process to send an innocent man to a foreign prison and then say, them's the breaks. Oh, well, an innocent man that was sent to a foreign prison that we can't get back. I want to make sure you guys are aware of this, right? That we cannot get back. They are beyond our reach. They're gone. And this administration isn't even trying. They're not even trying to get him back. They acknowledge that what they did was wrong. Okay, they acknowledge that, hey, we messed up. This was a mistake. This was they call it an administrative error. And oopsie whoopsie, nothing is done. Nothing is done. And then you have the Vice President of the United States coming in and lying about it after the administration has already admitted error in this, to just lie about it. But let's see what Counterpoints is up to. I DM'd him. Hopefully he gets here soon. If he doesn't get here, what are we going to do, gang? I don't know. If he runs away, if he pulls a Sunday on me, what are we going to do? I don't know. I'll just have to rant a little bit. How's everyone else today? Short Zach Goblin, nice to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Zero fucks, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Oh, you guys are quiet today. I don't know. Usually, you guys are just like pounding it out, right? Saying all sorts of things in chat by now. Is it the fact that No, it's past 6. I don't know. Maybe you guys are just feeling the doldrums like I am a little bit. Often Topical says this should be fun. Can't wait to hear conservative rail against free speech. Love Connor, but this is such a brain dead take. Well, I like Connor too. I think Counterpoints is a cool guy. Me and Connor see eye to eye on a lot of things, but not this thing. In fact, I think that he's dead wrong on it, and I'm willing to talk to him about it. And it's this idea, right? And I've heard this idea before. And maybe we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. But this idea that immigrants shouldn't have the same free speech protections that citizens do. And I reject that wholeheartedly. Again, any weakening of free speech for anyone weakens it for everyone. So if you want to kind of erode the shield that is the First Amendment in order to go after someone you think is saying a terrible thing, that's going to be applied. Those same standards that you used to weaken it are going to be applied to things that you don't think should be touched, right? Speech that you do not think that should be touched. I do not trust the government. Not this administration, not last administration, no administration, Democrat, Republican, Independent, it does not matter. I do not trust any of them to be able to say with any sort of confidence what speech is good and what speech is bad. I recognize that the First Amendment does have some restrictions. There are some restrictions built into the First Amendment. The Brandenburg test, incitement to violence, etc. But those are so vanishingly rare and require a high burden of proof in order to prove that someone has violated those things. They do make me a little bit uncomfortable. I'm not sure if I agree with those limitations to First Amendment, but I recognize that they exist, they're there, and, I go back and forth. I'm wishy-washy on it a little bit. But the concept of free speech, the concept of no matter who you are allowed to speak up and share your opinion, no matter what I think of that opinion, is fundamental to human freedom. Not just American freedom, but human freedom. Again, just because I can't enforce the First Amendment in these backwards countries in Europe doesn't mean I don't think they should have the right to speak their minds. Let's see what Counterpoints is doing. Where are you, buddy? Counterpoints, come on. We scheduled this. Where are you at? $10 says Psychonaut says if there's no screaming, I'm going to riot. Well, we got to get Counterpoints here to make them scream. Are you guys any of you guys have is he streaming? Someone pop over to his channel and remind him that it's 6:00 and it's time to wick out. He might have forgot. Honestly, I DM'd him about it. He's utilizing his freedom of speech to be tardy, I guess. He's pulling a Sunday. He's running. I don't know. Maybe he's just late. But yeah, the whole idea of like, well, immigrants shouldn't have the same rules as citizens. In some cases, I agree, right? I don't think immigrants should be allowed to vote. They aren't citizens. I don't think that they should get that right, okay? But I do think that they should have protections under the law. And one of those protections is the First Amendment. Another protection is the Second Amendment. I think that immigrants should be able to buy and own guns in America. Crazy, I know. Because again, any weakening of any of these fundamental rights weakens it for everyone. And remember, the First Amendment protects speech, not just who says it. It protects the thing being said. And that's fundamental. When you make it okay to go after certain people because they said a thing, it doesn't just apply to those people, and it will never stay there, right? The erosions of rights is subtle and insidious in many cases. But in this administration's case, particularly, it's just wild. And again, it's just wild that anyone would advocate, especially under this administration, that we erode anyone's rights. It's crazy to me. But again, once Counterpoints gets here, we'll talk about it. I'm going to be super mad if he doesn't show. I'll be upset. He's always been good on like if he can't show, usually he'll DM me, right? Like cuz I've invited him on shows before where he had to dip out an hour or two early, or an hour or two before, or maybe the day before. He says, "Man, I got stuff. It came up. I can't do it. Kids, etc., whatever." And he just tells me. So I don't know what's going on. Tash God of Fools, maybe I'll debate you on this if he doesn't show, because, wow, you're wrong. Deportation is not a punishment. Deportation is absolutely a punishment. I don't know. Zero Fox says, isn't he a full-time streamer now? So does he think he can be late because now he's a full-time streamer? Does he think that's what that means? He liked the tweet about today's show. He liked my little promo tweet. Look, I'm raring for this, gang. I want to fight about this. I'm ready to go. I'm chomping at the bit. Chomping at the bit. He can stream it too. We can both make some money, get some super chats in, right? Christian Valera says he never mentioned his convo with you during his earlier stream. He probably ain't coming. Kay says deportation is not a punishment according to SCOTUS. Well, they're wrong. Deportation absolutely is a punishment, right? It's a punishment. Of course it is. If you want to stay in a location, but then you are forced to move from that location, you are being punished. It may not be as egregious a punishment as some, right? As some others, right? It is definitely different, but it is still a punishment. And again, especially if the judge says, "Hey, do not send this man back to El Salvador because he's going to be tortured there, or he's at risk of bodily harm there. So do not do this." And then the government sends him to the one place that the judge said, "Do not send him." That's a punishment. That's an illegal punishment. Fun fact. But we'll get into that. Again, maybe we'll just go through these. We'll just go through these cases that the government has messed up if he doesn't show, and Tash can come and debate me. Where are you at, little counterpoints? Come on, Connor. Christian Valoris says if it makes you feel better, he got a streaming contract with Valor Media Network to stream weekly from 10 to 5. Tomorrow, I let him know his mistake. LOL. He got a contract? That's sweet. How do I get a contract? No one? Look. I was about to say no one wants to pay me to stream, but I had like $1,000 to be a. Well, I wasn't paid to stream, but I got paid $1,000 a month for a while during the election season. But you guys know about all that, right? Tash God of Fools says, I wouldn't even argue if you say we need to reform the immigration process. I just don't think it's a free speech issue. Of course it's a free speech issue. Of course it is. Because what is this? What is he being deported for? He's being deported for his speech, for his viewpoint specifically. Well, thank you, Benjamin, for giving a view and a like right now. I really appreciate you. Zero Fuck says the issue is that anything can be framed as a speech issue. Well, that's what the government is framing it as, a speech issue, right? The government's doing it. Thank God. Okay. Based, hello.
Hey, buddy.
You're live. People,
Yeah, I'm so sorry for being late.
It's fine.
I literally just went back onto Twitter and I was like, oh man, that's me. I'm tagged in a tweet for 6 p.m. Whoops. So, so
Did you forget, man? Like, if you're busy or something, we can reschedule, right? Like, I don't want to.
it's totally up to you. Right now, I'm at the park with the kids, but I do want to share something that's relatively positive, a positive development in my life. So I'm very happy to share. I broke 100K with the Warhammer channel a month or two back. That was very fun. With in reference to politics, I met up with some people from Valor Media Network. They're an offshoot of Midas, and they're starting a new channel, and they are blessing me. They are honoring me with the ability to stream for them full time for the next 6 months.
Wow.
So if I'm able to build, so if I'm able to build a successful stream, then we're going to continue. And then in 6 months, if I'm unable to break sufficient ground, then maybe I'll be rejoining the wage cage. But I'm hoping, considering some other untalented morons or streamers, that I'll still do well. So, that's my prayer.
Look, at the end of the day, if Hassan can do it, you can do it. If sub IQ retards can do it, you can too. And I believe in you, buddy. So yeah.
Well, thank you. And that's what I tell myself every morning I wake up. So so if you want to catch me live 20 to 35 hours a week, then catch me on Valor Media Network. That's where I was live today actually I was live on my original channel to try to get people moved over. But I'll be live there 35 hours a week. And then it's up to you. If you want to talk right now, I will be on the phone. I will be walking around. I will be chasing kids, so it'll be a little bit distracting. If you want to reschedule, that way you can see my face and I can be on a better microphone, we can reschedule. I actually leave this up to you.
Let's reschedule, I think, because again, I've look, the whole time I'm going to feel bad. Like I'm yelling at you while your kids are there, and I don't want to shame you in front of your children. So how about this? We'll DM each other. We'll figure out a time. I can make content
literally tomorrow at 6 p.m. Oh, well, I guess you already have content scheduled.
Not for tomorrow. I have something for Thursday. So we could do it tomorrow. We could just push it to tomorrow. Cool.
If you're okay with that, then my sincerest apologies for flubbing the schedule, and I will see you tomorrow.
Tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you then, buddy. Okay?
All right.
Have fun in the park with your kids.
Thanks.
Hey, Tash God of Fools, get in. It's your turn, buddy. We can have this conversation twice. Let me change the title. Give me a second. Whick versus the world. Whoever shows. Sorry, gang. I really apologize. That sucks. But again, look, I'm not going to take a man away from his children. I'm not going to take away someone from their family time, okay? That's just not going to happen. But I do want to talk about this. So, Tash God of Fools, get in here. Or anyone who disagrees with my take here. If you disagree with my take, if you think that immigrants, legal or otherwise, should not have access to the First Amendment, jump backstage in my Discord. I will give you the invite link. One moment. Man, can someone post a link to my Discord invite link that works? One of the problems with Discord now is it does this thing when I'm streaming that it won't let me link my Discord. Okay, it won't let me do that. That sucks. But yeah. I know Tash God of Fools, you're in my server, man. Come on in. I know you're already here. Well, that's why I want to talk, Zero Fox, instead of just like say what their position is. I want them to come in and tell me their position, then we can have a discussion. Um, I think Mahmoud Khalil should not be deported, not based on the evidence presented, at least. Short Sack Goblin says, not taking a man from his children, how un-American of you. Kidnapping fathers is in your culture. Look. Okay. I'm one of the good ones. One of the good ones, baby. So yeah, that's kind of disappointing though, gang. And I'm really sorry. I thought we had this locked down. Might have to just do it tomorrow. No one shows. That sucks. Do you guys want to talk about something else? I'm not sure. Here, I got an idea. Gang. Hold on. Hold your horses. I have an idea. Give me a second, kings and queens. Let's read. Let's see if I can get this in a non-paywalled format, and then we're gonna read. We're gonna go through. We're gonna go through the recent court case, or not court case, the recent kerfuffle with immigration. But no, we have Tash God of Fools. Hello. You're live.
Oh, hello.
Hi. So thank you for coming. I know it's a little last minute notice, but I know we have some substantive disagreements on this. So I figured I'd invite you on and you could kind of give me your take, give me your thoughts, and we can go. For those of you who ask what happened with Connor, Connor forgot. So we're doing it tomorrow with Connor. Sucks, but it is what it is. But luckily, we're gonna be we still got content, man. So we're gonna talk to Tash God of Fools here about it a little bit, and then tomorrow me and Connor will have our debate. So, Tash, what are your thoughts on this? I guess I'll just ask you, why shouldn't immigrants be protected by the First Amendment? Go ahead.
Morally or legally?
Either one.
Well, legally, I don't think under the current framework they very much are. Could be wrong about that, but maybe you're here and you can provide some information to correct me.
Sure. Well, we do have some Supreme Court cases on this, right? So back in 1945, when we were still like the Cold War was just starting up. Okay, you remember that, and we had the McCarthy era coming up, and it wasn't quite here yet. But one of the things that the government tried to do was to deport communists, immigrants who were here who identified as communists, and one of the things that they did was they had a case against this guy and tried to deport him simply for being a member of the Communist Party. And the claim from the government was that him being a member of the Communist Party showed that he supported a foreign power, an enemy, terrorist organization, etc. Right? The courts ruled, however, that the government could not deport this man for this because, and again, they say this in the ruling, immigrants, aliens is the word they use, but he's not an alien, guys. He's an immigrant. They are entitled to protection under the law, and one of those protections is the First Amendment. So there's been other cases since then, but that is probably the one I remember most that establishes, I think, that the First Amendment does apply to immigrants who are here.
No, yeah, I would agree that it applies, and I don't even necessarily think he breached like the Brandenburg limits of speech. So like that's part of why I don't think he's being like arrested and like charged with any crime in relation to that, and is simply like being deported.
Okay, but you understand, like, he's being deported against his will.
Yes.
Yes. That is something that we should not allow to happen, especially because he's not just a visa holder. He's not an illegal immigrant, but Mahmoud Khalil specifically is a legal permanent resident. He has a green card, which means he's gone through the process, he's applied, and he's received a certain level of protection from these
No,
things.
yeah, I agree. He's protected under our First Amendment and Second Amendment and whatnot. But I believe he still has the stipulations of he has to abide by the paperwork he signed when he became a
Sure.
green card holder, correct?
Some of
And
it,
I
yes.
believe that is to what they're pointing to when they're deporting him.
Okay, can I ask what specifically what part of it he broke, or at least that they claim that he broke?
I believe they're pointing to support for Hamas, being that he was the organizer of and a large participant in, as well as a negotiator for the protests, and like that
So,
they link that largely to Hamas and the
but
support therein.
but here's the thing: I have yet to see, and maybe you have something. And I know you. Look, I called you up because Counterpoints wasn't here today, so I
Oh
don't
yeah,
blame
I'm,
you
I'm
for
the
not having
backup. I get
anything here,
it. I'm
right?
I'm not as prepared as I
Yeah,
would
I
be.
understand. I understand. I'm just granting you that grace, okay? But
No, I appreciate it.
if you have anything that shows him supporting Hamas in word or in deed, please link that to me, because as I understand it, he is, and he does admit to being a member of a Columbia protest group, a BDS group, or a boycott, divestment, sanction group towards Israel. But that is not the same, nor is it equivalent to support for Hamas. And while there might have been other members of that group who do support Hamas, who do have or have made those kinds of takes, I have not seen him make these kinds of takes. And we cannot use I do not accept it as a sufficient evidence that he merely being a member of a group means he should be held responsible for what other members of that group have done. If you want to deport him and say he broke his contract, you have to show where he engaged in any of these practices. So if you can, please.
I mean, I believe, like, I don't know if this breaches the lines of where you're looking, but I believe he was involved in the handing out of pamphlets that were quite literally like Hamas propaganda pamphlets, like from the like Hamas news agency.
He handed out pamphlets from the Hamas news agency. Um,
Or
can you
like
show
the
me one of these
organization that he
pamphlets?
was like with.
Here, let me choose. Look, I
Let
know
me
this is a
see
lot.
if
Let
I
me
have
Google it.
it.
Here, what? And maybe someone can DM me if they have access to these pamphlets. What pamphlets did Mahmoud Khalil
Actually, funny
hand
enough, I
out?
took screenshots of a video where he actually had them on the screen, but um, it was kind of shitty screenshots, so I deleted them. And then
Okay.
also, I'm not 100% sure that those are legitimate because there's obviously a lot of people on the Semitic side that are putting out a lot of false information in relation to it because of the whole conflict. And I understand and realize that there's a lot of misinformation pushed and put out there on both sides.
Okay. Um. So I just did a quick Google. Um. I wasn't able to find the pamphlets that they say he was handing out. Some people do say he was handing out pamphlets, right? But I haven't seen what those pamphlets are. And again, I don't think handing out pamphlets is enough to say that he supports Hamas. I just don't. I think that like one of the things that you have to show, in my opinion, in order to show that he supports a terrorist organization is for him to be a member of that terrorist organization, for him to tell people to join the terrorist organization or share links with where they can join the terrorist organization. So again, if these pamphlets have links to how to sign up for Hamas, you might have a point, right?
I don't even disagree with you. I think a lot of our like probably our terrorism laws and like our deportation laws are probably a little bit too stringent. But I could be wrong, and like the Supreme Court could correct Trump, and you could be the victor in this. But I really think these deportations are going to go through. I think this is one of the strongest powers that is put into the executive branch, and I think he's going to be able to push these through. I
Well,
don't know. I could
well,
be
first
wrong.
of all, I don't
You
think
could
Trump
turn out correct.
I don't think the Trump administration gives a shit what the courts say. And I can, for evidence of that, I would point to the fact that they ignored an order from a judge telling them to turn the planes around when they were in the air, that they were just
So
deporting people in. So that's one.
could
The
I just
second, if I
speak
may,
on that?
if I can finish,
No, no, sorry, sure.
yeah, that's fine. The second thing I would say, as evidence of this, is the fact that they have deported the gentleman. I forget his name. The one that's in the news that we were about to read about, who was deported to El Salvador when he had legal status here, saying, "Hey, don't deport this guy to El Salvador," and they just did it anyway. And when they admitted, like, "Oh, we did this anyway," we can't get him back either. He's just gone now. So I don't trust the government here, at least this Trump administration or any government really, to keep to their word about this. I think that they're just going to try to get as many people out as fast as they can, and they don't care what the law says. But go ahead, you can answer now.
No, for sure. I just feel in regards to the plane flights, like he signed that mid-air when he didn't know like even how much fuel was on the plane or any of the specifics. In addition to that, I believe the way Trump was able to successfully counter that was by enacting like an old statute or like an old power to literally go around the judge's law. So I don't think he actually directly countered it. I could be incorrect though, and that again could go up the chain and finds out that I'm wrong. But like I'm sure we'll find out either way.
Well, maybe. If we're
In
in a
regards
if
to
we're in a
the
signal group chat, we will, right? And
hopefully,
about
fingers
Houthis and
crossed.
things like that. But at the end of the day, right? Like, I think what you're referring to, and maybe I'm wrong, is the Alien Enemies Act that Trump enacted. Is
Yeah,
that
that's
what you're
what he
referring to?
enacted, like basically in response to the judge, correct?
No, that was what the judge was trying to stop. He was deporting people using this power, and the reason he activated this power, because you're right, it's an old power, and he was using it to circumvent the courts. So you're right in that. But the power basically allows him to deport people with no due process at all, right? So no trial, no court, no standing in front of the judge, none of them. They could just simply take people off the street and send them on these planes. And the judge had issued an injunction against him, a TRO, a temporary restraining order, saying, no, wait, you can't do that. And well, at the time, the planes were already in the air, and the Trump administration claims they couldn't turn them around. I don't believe the Trump administration in this case. I do think that they defied this order. I do consider it a defied order, and I think that like this idea, right, of them simply being able to take people off the street, no trial, no phone call, no lawyer, no nothing, and send them off to a foreign jail is horrific.
Oh, yeah, that sounds a little bit horrific, but I think there is slightly more of a process than that. But maybe I'm completely wrong.
What is
In
the
regards
process?
in regards to the second case, it was like adjudicated to a degree, right?
What do you mean?
And like you disagree with the findings that the judge found, correct? Being that you obviously
Hold on.
like
Which finding? Can you
the,
be more
the the
specific?
tattoos, the barber, right? It was like adjudicated that the judge at least thought he was the Trendero Agra,
We're
correct?
talking two different cases here.
No,
So
yeah, I'm talking about the second case, the one that you brought up after the airplanes.
okay, so the second case had nothing to do with a gay barber. That's a different case. So,
That's
or
there's
tattoos.
like multiple people
Yes, there
getting
are
like
multiple people
pulled
that
up for tattoos.
have been shipped off to this El Salvador prison, right, with no due
To be
process.
fair, while that's messed up, they probably wouldn't have fared much better in El Salvador. Like they're scraping up everyone that had tattoos there too.
Okay. Um maybe, but in this person's case, he fled to America back in 2012, okay? So he's been here for a while. In 2019, he was put forth in front of a judge, and he was accused of being a gang member. The lawyer for the government said he was a gang member, and the evidence they used to say he was a gang member were two things. The first one is he had a Chicago Bulls hoodie on. I kid you not. That is one of the pieces of evidence they used. The second piece of evidence, and there's only two, okay? The second piece of evidence they used, it's a little bit stronger, okay? They said that an informant had told them that this man was a MS-13 member. Not Trende Agra. This isn't about Trende Agra. This guy's MS-13 is what they claim. However, this informant is someone that the police at the time did not trust. They did not believe him. And the judge in the case, right? The judge in the case ruled and ruled that he was someone that while he may have been or may not have been a gang member, they didn't adjudicate that either way. They said that he could not be sent back to he could not be deported. Withholding from deported, I think, is a status that he did. So in other words, they gave him a legal status here, that he could be here legally. They gave him asylum, basically, is what they did. Now, that is a legal process you might not agree with, but it went through.
Oh yeah,
They didn't
that's
arrest
fine.
him. They didn't arrest him, right? He was given no charges. And again, this was
Is
2019, so this
is
was
this
under
the
Trump.
same
Can I
individual that
finish?
was?
Can I finish?
Yeah, of course. Sorry.
And maybe I'll answer your question. So again, this was under the Trump administration. They were pretty strict on deportations then. They were pretty strict on immigration then. He wasn't charged with any crime because he didn't commit any crime. Okay. The only restriction he was given is once a year he had to meet back with ICE, which he has done. And he's been in this country since then for 6 years. And he has no criminal record. He's engaged in no violent crimes. He does have a couple speeding tickets and some traffic violations. So there's that. But at the end of the day, he had legal status here because he was granted asylum. But go on, please.
Okay, let me ask you just a basic question. Do you think being in America is a privilege or a right for non-citizens?
It's a privilege.
Okay, so do you think that like where is your line for like
Look, if he's an actual
you're
gang member
out?
and they can prove he's a gang member, get him out of the
No, no, no,
country.
no, no. I'm not talking about that. I'm asking where is your line in criminality?
In violent
And then
crime,
oh my gosh, you have to go.
if you engage in violent crime, I think you should be deported. Yeah.
What about DUI?
Arrested, put in prison, and then deported, to be clear.
What about something that can cause someone's death, like DUI? Would you say that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. If you're doing something reckless enough and you break the law, like if you're driving under the influence or I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but yeah, I'm okay with that, right? Like, I'm not okay with he was going 60 in a 45. Like, I don't think that's enough.
No, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of speeding laws. Like, just so you understand where I'm at, like I think criminal migrants should have like complete and total freedom of speech up to the same level as like citizens.
Okay.
Like and as well as I think they should also like be able to have the Second Amendment. But I think criminal migrants should also probably be deported. Therefore, that kind of
I don't
negates both
disagree
of
with
those
you.
rights that they have, making it sort of moot.
I don't disagree that if they break the law and they break a violent law, I'm not talking like jaywalking or some shit, right? But if they're a violent criminal, just get them out of the country. I agree with that. As long as
Yeah,
you can prove
I
it.
don't
Yeah,
even
this
disagree
is
with you.
important.
That's a
Hold on.
decent
This is
line to have.
important. This is important, right? As long as you can prove that they are a violent criminal. They can't just be accused of. You have to show some evidence. You have to prove it in some sort of court. There has to be some standard of evidence, right? It can't just be that the government says. We can't have that as a standard. We can't have it as a standard that the government says so. You don't get a say, right? And the government doesn't have to provide any evidence, or the evidence they have to provide is so weak. And let's be clear, the evidence that they are providing now is if you have a tattoo. If you have a tattoo, or again in this case, a Chicago Bulls hoodie, okay? That's such a silly level of evidence. No one would believe that. So again,
I have a question.
if you can prove
On the
it, get
speeding
them out.
ticket stuff,
Yeah.
like if that continues on, like if you doesn't pay the speeding tickets and doesn't show up to court and like continues to speed, is there a point at which you would deport him for that, or is that
Probably
fine? You
not.
have just a whole bunch of people
Like find him.
speeding
You can
around
find him. You can.
and like
I think. Look, you can find him. If you catch him, punish him somehow. But I think deportation for that specific thing, especially
I mean
to El Salvador, is just silly.
I agree with the whole deportation of El Salvador being a little bit silly. I think it was mostly like an optic thing to be a massive like disencouragement to anyone that's wanting to illegally come here. Like, oh man, if I go there and I do a crime, I might end up there.
No,
Like, fuck, I don't want that to happen.
You are correct in the fact that one of the reasons that this administration is behaving like they are is and they've said this, right? Marco Rubio has said this, is to discourage people, anyone, from coming to this country. Anyone, right? Legally
They
or
have
illegally.
They have coyotes smuggling people back over the border.
Yeah, because people are scared.
Yeah, because they don't want to get caught and deported, and then because they're deported, they're no longer able to enter in legally.
It's a fear
and like
tactic.
actually go through the like proper process, and then they won't be able to come in.
Well, here's the thing. Even if you go through the proper process, you can still get detained for weeks. There was a Canadian woman back in March. Well, it's still, back in March because it's April now. Back in March, this Canadian woman said that she went in to get her visa renewed, her work visa, which she had had for a while. They threw her in a cell, and they kept her there for 2 weeks. She eventually got out, right? She was eventually given a phone call, not for days. It took her 3 days to be able to access a phone, okay? But she eventually, I'm sorry, it wasn't a phone, it was an email. She got access to a tablet to send an email, okay? She emailed her boss, and her boss got her out. But she wasn't coming in illegally. She was going through a legal port of entry. She was coming in legally. And they put her in a prison for 2 weeks. A holding cell. I won't be hyperbolic. It was a holding cell. It wasn't a prison, right? But she wasn't allowed to leave. She was given 3 hots in a cot, okay? It was detainment. And that, to me, again, for someone coming in legally to this country, or trying to, it is clear to me that this administration is trying to scare anyone from coming to this country, and they do not care who they hurt in order to do so. They do not care that they deported this man erroneously to El Salvador. They admit they cannot get him back. He's gone now to the place that he was specifically forbidden from being sent to. And the reason he was forbidden from being sent to there was because there was a high and real risk, a credible threat, that if he got there, his life would be in danger. Okay? He was granted asylum in this country, specifically from where they sent him. That is horrific to me. And the fact that they did this without due process is un-American. 2025
Yeah,
Gay Odyssey asks, why don't you
administrative
care about
errors
Americans,
happen
Whick?
for sure.
I do. Hold on, just real quick. I do care about Americans, Gay Odyssey. Do you think that they're going to look? If I say that you're an illegal immigrant and I send people to take you and to snatch you up from your home, put you in a van, drive you to a deportation office, put you on a plane, okay, then send you off, I don't have to give you a phone call. I don't have to give you a lawyer. I don't have to give you anything. How are you going to prove to me without due process, without the courts, without a system in place? How are you going to refute this? This is why due process matters. So, because again, the government can do this currently, and they are doing this currently. They will go to your house or find you on the street. They will snatch you up. You will be put in a van. You will be driven to a cell. You will be put on a plane. And you'll be sent out of the country. And then when your family misses you, when your lawyer tries to contact you, when they try to get a hold of you, right, and they realize you're gone, the government will say, oh, too late. We can't get them back now. That is what's happening in these instances. The gay barber that you talked about initially, the lawyer cannot get a hold of him. His lawyer cannot contact him because he's in a foreign prison where they don't have the same rights.
Foreign prison, not anything to do with us at that point.
That's the horrific part of all this. That's the horrific part of all this. It's a violation of our rights.
I mean, I don't even disagree with you, like we said earlier, about like changing like the limits for deporting someone. But I think currently where they're at, like I said, I think they have carte blanche to do what they're doing.
They might with the Foreign Enemies Act. But I think that that's going to be struck down and overturned. I think that the public sentiment against this is rising, and it's rising fast. That is just my lay of the land. I don't have a poll to give you.
Do you think the sorry to shift topics a little bit, but do you think the Doge sentiment, like the sentiment against Doge and against that aspect of the administration, is also rising? Or do you think it's about the same steady pitch it's been for a bit?
I can't speak to Doge, man, and what people think of that. But yeah. But thanks for calling, buddy.
No, yeah, thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it. It was nice chatting.
Yeah, it's this. Why is it okay? This is what I really want to drill down on, okay? And I love you, Tash, but I didn't want distractions while I was doing this because this is important. Why does due process matter? And why does it matter for illegal immigrants or who we think is illegal immigrants? There's a couple reasons. One of the foundational concepts of our justice system, of what we consider justice, is a concept of innocence until proven guilty. We have this as a concept because we recognize that powerful entities, such as the government, such as the state, often do two things. They get things wrong, they make mistakes, and they abuse their power. Okay? Due process is in place to mitigate that, to recognize that this happens, and we want to mitigate the damage that is done when mistakes are made. So in order to remove or at least reduce as much as possible the chance that a mistake has occurred, we have a process in place so that we can ensure that the people who are being punished or deported or imprisoned or fined or what have you, there is a process that we go through to make sure that we're doing it to the right person. Because we cannot have laws or we cannot have a system in place where the government can just say you are guilty and throw you away. That is horrific. Because again, without due process, there is nothing to stop them from coming to your house, calling you an illegal immigrant or a gang member or a terrorist or what have you, taking you, putting you in a van, taking you to a deportation center, putting you on a plane, and sending you to God knows where. We need a process in place because, as we have seen, even in just the deportations that they have done in this one batch, we know that at least 2 are in error. Of the 300 something they deported, 2 are in error, at least. And that's the loud ones. That's the ones we know about. We have no way of knowing if any of the deportations are legitimate. We have none because there is no due process. We don't know if any of them are actually immigrants and not citizens. We don't know. We had one case where the process was an ICE agent picked this guy up, said he was a Tren de Agua or whatever member, and they cited as evidence, quote unquote, tattoos. That he had a mom tattoo and he had a dad tattoo with crowns on them. So they put him on a plane and sent him to El Salvador. He did not get a phone call. He did not get anything. No trial, no nothing. This should anger you. This should disturb you. This is un-American. This other case that we're talking about. Let's read it. Let's go through it. Okay. I'll bring it up. Okay, let's go through it real quick. The Atlantic, okay. An administrative error sends a Maryland father to a Salvadorian prison. The Trump administration says that it mistakenly deported an immigrant with protected status, but that courts are powerless to order his return. The Trump administration acknowledged in a court filing Monday that it had grabbed a Maryland father with protected legal status and mistakenly deported him to El Salvador, but said that U.S. courts lack jurisdiction to order his return from the mega prison where he's now locked up. I'm laughing, but it's not funny, gang. It's horrific. Again, we're talking massive levels of incompetence here. Massive levels of incompetence. More so than normal, okay? There's always incompetence in the government, but this is just an extra level. Remember, these guys can't even run a group chat. They couldn't even run a group chat without fucking it up. And you expect them to deport all these people with nary a problem? Keep going. The case appears to be the first time the Trump administration has admitted to errors when it sent 3 plane loads of Salvadoran and Venezuelan deportees to El Salvador's grim terrorism confinement center on March 15th. Attorneys for several Venezuelan deportees have said that the Trump administration falsely labeled their clients as gang members because of their tattoos. Trump officials have disputed those claims. But in Monday's court filing, attorneys for the government admitted that the Salvadoran man Kilmar Abrego Garcia had been deported accidentally. Quote, although ICE was aware of his protection from removal to El Salvador, Abrego Garcia was removed to El Salvador because of an administrative error. The government told the court. Trump lawyers said the court has no ability to bring Abrego Garcia back now that he is in Salvadoran custody. So again, they messed up. They admit they messed up, and they claim, and I don't think this is true, by the way. I think they could. If they really wanted to get him back, they could. They could. They call him up, send him back. We messed up. We'll pay for his plane ticket home. We'll pay for his release, which is the least that they should do. But they aren't even trying. Let that sink in. They recognize that they did this wrong. They recognize that they messed up. They recognize that it was their fault, that this man should not have been deported. And they're not even trying to fix it. They do not care. I say this a lot, but I'm going to keep saying it because it keeps happening. Incompetence and cruelty. That's what this administration is. They are incapable of governing, incapable of running these programs, incapable of doing it correctly, incapable of following the law. They are incompetent. And they are cruel. They do not care. When they mess up, oh well, it does not matter. And you have the vice president of the United States going on, again, after they admitted their error, saying, well, he was just a bad guy anyway, so we don't care. Again, sans evidence. There's no evidence that he is a gang member. Not any credible evidence anyway, right? No one got to cross-examine this informant, so to speak. The police at the time didn't believe the informant. The judge didn't order his arrest, as you would if he was a gang member, right? If he had been a violent criminal gang member, he would have a rap sheet. Right? There would be incidents you could point to where he broke the law, other than a traffic violation, okay? If he was this hardened criminal that they say he was, he's been in the country since 2012 for over 10 years, right? And he has no violent history or record. What a shitty-ass gang member if he was a gang member, okay? He's like the weakest gang member ever. The least troublesome gang member ever. Again, they have no evidence, no credible evidence. Him wearing a Chicago Bulls hoodie, while cringe, and all Chicago Bull fans should be deported, true, right? That, in all seriousness, that is just not enough. It's not enough. And no one got to question this. And again, the judge even said that he had protected status. He gave him specifically asylum status, protected status, saying he can stay. We can't deport him. The only thing he has to do is check back every year with ICE. That's it. That was what the judge said. Again, under the Trump administration, the first term. Then you have everyone just, and this is what they're doing. This is what, we'll go to the tweet in a minute here, right? But J.D. Vance has been on Twitter all day trying to spin this. J.D. Vance, the same guy who said he was willing to make up stories and create stories. When you guys remember the cats, they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, Haitians, immigrant story, right? That they, again, literally admitted that they made up. J.D. Vance literally admitted that he was just trying to create a story to prove a larger point. That's what he said. He's doing it again because it doesn't matter, right? None of this matters. They just want to get all these foreigners out, whether they're here legally or not. And they don't care who they hurt. They don't care if they break the law. They don't care about any of these things. But they're doing it in such an incompetent way that it's obvious to anyone who's even looking. But they don't care. They don't give a shit. Let's keep reading. Simon Sandoval Muschenberg, Abrego Garcia's attorney, said he's never seen a case in which the government knowingly deported someone who had already received protected legal status from an immigration judge. He's asking the court to order the Trump administration to ask for Abrego Garcia's return and, if necessary, to withhold payment to the Salvadoran government, which says it's charging the United States $6 million a year to jail U.S. deportees. So remember, in all this, we're paying the El Salvadoran prison, right, for this. They're getting money. The more immigrants that they get, the more money they get. Pockets are being lined, okay? Trump administration attorneys told the court to dismiss the request on multiple grounds. Again, all this guy's asking is for the Trump administration to ask for him back and to not pay and to withhold payment so that they'll give him back. That's all he's asking for at this point, at this juncture. And the Trump administration attorneys told the courts to dismiss the request, okay, on multiple grounds, including the Trump's primacy in foreign affairs outweighs the interest of Abrego Garcia and his family. They do not care. They do not care that they did this wrong. They do not care that this man should not have been deported. They do not care that he is innocent. You gotta protect Trump, bro. Trump's primacy in foreign affairs trumps the innocent or guilt of this man. Gang, this is horrific. You cannot and should not defend this. It is indefensible. James Castile says, $5. Unlike natural-born citizens, green card holders swear an oath to America. Can you read it and let me know your thoughts? Supporting Hamas seems to violate it. James Castile, you got to show me where Mahmoud Khalil supported Hamas. I have yet to see it. All you guys say is, well, he was part of a group and some members of that group supported Hamas. Maybe true, but some members of the Republican Party stormed the Capitol and tried to beat up cops. Does that mean we should round up all the Republicans because they support that? No, obviously not. Let's keep reading. Hold on. They claim, and this is a quote, they claim that the court is powerless to order any relief, Sandoval Moshenberg told me. If that's true, the immigration laws are meaningless, all of them, because the government can deport whoever they want, whenever they want, wherever they want, and no court can do anything about it once it's done. Court filings show that Abrego Garcia came to the United States at age 16 in 2011 after fleeing gang threats in his native El Salvador. In 2019, he received a form of protected legal status known as withholding of removal from a U.S. immigration judge who found he would likely be targeted by gangs if deported back. Asylum, in other words, gang. Abrego Garcia, who's married to a U.S. citizen and has a 5-year-old disabled child who's also a U.S. citizen, has no criminal record in the United States, according to his attorney. The Trump administration does not claim he has a criminal record, but called him a, quote-unquote, danger to the community, and an active member of the MS-13 and Salvadorian gang that Trump has declared a foreign terrorist organization. Sandoval Moshenberg said that those charges are false, and that the gang label stems from a 2019 incident where Abrego Garcia and 3 other men were detained in a Home Depot parking lot by a police detective in Prince George's County, Maryland. During questioning, one of the men told officers that Abrego Garcia was a gang member, but the man offered no proof, and police said they didn't believe him, filings show. Police did not identify him as a gang member. Abrego Garcia was not charged with a crime, but he was handed over to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE in other words, after the arrest to face deportation. In those proceedings, the government claimed that a reliable informant had identified him as a ranking member of MS-13. Abrego Garcia and his family hired an attorney and fought the government's attempt to deport him. He received withholding of removal 6 months later, a protected status. This is the guy, okay? And this is what they're doing to the guy. Again, shouldn't have been there. Wasn't allowed to be deported. He had protected legal status here. They did it anyway. And they're not doing anything to get him back. It is not a path to permanent U.S. residency, but it means the government won't deport him back to his home country because he's more likely than not to face harm there. Abrego Garcia has had no contact with any law enforcement agency since his release, according to his attorney. He works full-time as a union sheet metal apprentice, has complied with the requirements to check in annually with ICE, and cares for his 5-year-old son, who has autism and hearing defect and is unable to communicate verbally. On March 12th, Abrego Garcia had picked up his son after work from the boy's grandmother's house when ICE officers stopped the car, saying his protected status had changed. Officers waited for Abrego Garcia's wife to come to the scene and take care of the boy, then drove him away in handcuffs. Within 2 days, he had been transferred to an ICE staging facility in Texas, along with other detainees the government was preparing to send to El Salvador. Trump had invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, and the government planned to deport 2 planeloads of Venezuelans along with a separate group of Salvadorians. Abrego Garcia's family had had no contact with him since he was sent to the mega prison in El Salvador, known as CCOT. His wife spotted her husband in news photographs released by Salvadorian President Nayib Bukele on the morning of March 16th after a U.S. district judge told the Trump administration to halt the flights. Oopsie, Bukele wrote on social media, taunting the judge. These people are cruel. They're evil, okay? They're evil. You understand that, right? And I don't use that word lightly. These people are evil. Their defenders are defending evil. It is akin to defending Epstein. Oh, but those kids he raped, they were immigrant kids, so they don't matter. They don't get due process. Right? Huh? No protections for immigrants, right? Give him to Epstein. Let him have his way. What does that matter? No protections for immigrants, right? Evil, gang. It is evil. $5 from Testicle Johnson. James is wrong. Green card holders do not take the naturalized ocean of allegiance to the United States of America. He is dishonest or an idiot. I'll let you guys argue about that. Razzle Smasher says, if Whick is calling them evil, you know they are evil as all hell. True. Keep going. If the government wants to deport someone with protected status, the standard course would be to reopen the case and introduce new evidence arguing for the deportation. The deportation of protected status holder has even stunned some government attorneys I've been in touch with who are tracking the case, who declined to be named because they weren't authorized to speak to the press. What the fuck? One texted me, and that's a quote. And this is an aside, okay? So I just want to make it clear. This is happening in the context in which this is happening. Trump is currently legally going after law firms who oppose him. I'm not kidding about that. I'm not making that up. He is with lawsuits, with litigation, with the full force and power of the U.S. government. Any law firm who has sued him or been a part of litigation against him or his administration are being targeted and attacked. Let that sink in. They do not care about due process. They do not care about the law. If you are a judge and you speak out against this, they will find your family and go after your family. The Judge Boascherberg, who put that injunction to stop the flights, they found his family. And they started making up rumors about his family, targeting his family, posting his daughter's face all over social media, right? These people are evil. They're evil. Sandoval Motionberg told the courts that he believes Trump officials deported his client through extrajudicial means because they believed that going through the immigration judge process took too long, and they feared that they might not win all of their cases. Officials at ICE and the Department of Homeland Security did not respond to a request for comment. The Monday court filing by the government indicates that officials knew Abrego Garcia had legal protections shielding him from deportation to El Salvador. So they knew. This wasn't an accident. They knew, and they did it anyway. Fire every single one of them. Bring them up on charges. I'm not kidding. If you knew that someone had legal protected status, that you were not legally allowed to do what you did to him, and then you did it anyway, you should at the least lose your job. What are we doing here, gang? This is horrific. It's unconstitutional. It's illegal. It's immoral. It's evil. Quote, ICE was aware of his grant of withholding from removal at the time of Abrego Garcia's removal from the United States. Reference was made to this status on internal forms, the government told the court in its filings. So the government admits they knew. Okay, just want to be clear. Abrego Garcia was not on the initial manifest of the deportation flight, but was listed as an alternate, the government attorneys explained. As other detainees were removed from the flight for various reasons, Abrego Garcia moved up on the list because they had to fill that flight, baby. Whether it was with gang members or people that they thought were gang members or, whoever they could snatch up on the streets that was brown and had tattoos. It did not matter. They put them on that plane because they had to fill it because Daddy Trump said so. Fuck the laws, right? Daddy Trump said. We got to do what Daddy Trump says. The flight manifest did not indicate that Abrego Garcia should not be removed, the attorney said. Through administrative error, Abrego Garcia was removed from the United States to El Salvador. This was an oversight. But despite this, they told the court that Abrego Garcia's deportation was carried out in good faith. Oh my God. This is insane. It is insane and it is evil. A lot of people say, Whick, why are you being so hyperbolic? I'm not being hyperbolic. This isn't hyperbole. Why are you freaking out, man? This is a time to freak out. The Constitution is being shredded. Our courts are on fire. They're setting them on fire. They know what they're doing is illegal and they're doing it anyway. They admit it. And yet still, people defend this monstrous violation of justice, monstrous violation of civil rights, monstrous violation of the rule of law. The concept of innocent until proven guilty is under attack. And if you think they're going to stop with immigrants, you are wrong. They're already going after citizens. They're already going after lawyers and judges who dare oppose them. They're going after them and their families. Look, I get it. Lefties are annoying. Lefties are bad. The ones who are burning up and firebombing Teslas are also bad guys. But don't let that make you overlook this evil. Don't let one evil become an excuse to do more evil. Do not let it happen. And that is the defense that many are making. Well, someone else did an evil thing, so we have to do this evil thing. No, you don't. If this is allowed, okay, real talking, I'm being real with you right now. If this is allowed to stand, there's going to be several things that happen. Okay. Perhaps most pertinent to those of you who are defending this, eventually the left will gain power again. And you have decided, in your wisdom, to make it so they no longer have to listen to the courts. So they no longer have to listen to any kind. They could just ignore you when you protest. And they're able to do whatever they want to you and yours, with the full force and backing of the United States government. And this will be because you, in your infinite wisdom, really, really hated those brown people, those immigrants or whatever. And so you were willing to shred the protections that you receive in order to get to those guys because you hated them that much. What do you think happens next? Honest question. What do you think happens next? What do you think happens when AOC or some other lefty or some Democrat gets in power after this? And they decide, these people are lawless, barbaric threats. You better hope that they're better people than you are. Frankly, you better hope. It will be the work of a generation to repair this damage. It will be the work of a generation to repair the absolute shredding that has occurred to our due process and civil rights. Because again, as I will be arguing with counterpoints on this tomorrow, and it really sucks that he wasn't able to be here today, right? So I do apologize for that, gang. We're gonna end it in a second here because look, I didn't have much prepared if counterpoints didn't show up. Okay. I'm glad he got his contract or whatever. That's good for him. But I wish he would have told me he couldn't make it today. That would have been nice, right? But that's neither here nor there. He'll be here tomorrow. I hope. I hope. I'll have to remind him. Okay, I'll remind him in the morning. I'll be like, "Hey, don't forget." The First Amendment and the protections of the First Amendment protect speech. Not just those who say it, but it protects the speech themselves. And when you make carve-outs, when you put holes in that shield that is the First Amendment, when that umbrella, right, that protects us all, it's going to weaken the protections that you enjoy. I love my freedom more than I hate what those immigrants are saying. I love my freedom more than I hate gang members. I think even the worst of us deserve due process. Why? Because pragmatically, it protects me. I would give due process to the devil himself. I would give First Amendment protections to the devil himself because that is what protects me. If we are to stop tyranny and oppression, one of the first ways that tyranny and oppression is implemented into society is through attacking bad guys, scoundrels, people don't targets that people don't like, that people hate, in fact. But they never stop there. Those excuses, those weakenings of our protections and our law and our system that is used to go after the bad guys invariably is used against people we don't consider bad guys, and in fact, consider good guys, and in fact, consider us. So just keep that in mind going forward. I confess that it's become hard for me lately. I try to be a kind person. I try to be a charitable person. I try to be above it. What I mean by that is I don't believe in an eye for an eye. I reject that, right? I reject that kind of concept. I am someone who believes that we should treat other people well, even if they don't treat you well. It makes you a better person, right? But I confess it's been hard of late. It's been hard of late. I struggle against the worst sides of me when I see people defending this deportation nonsense, this destruction of our human rights. And I see people defend it by saying, well, they're just gang members. They don't matter. Who cares? Again, after all the evidence has been presented that shows a few of them at least aren't gang members at all. Okay? But the fact that people think, oh, that's just collateral damage, it's okay. I struggle not to just turn around and have the same care that they do for others and treat them the same way they treat others. I struggle to do that because how they treat others is horrific. Let's be clear. It's horrific and they shouldn't do it. It's evil. It's shameful. Yeah. So it's a struggle. I'm struggling against it. I'm trying to resist the temptation, but I recognize that it's there, right? And I recognize it's there in all of us, right? This temptation to lash out, to answer evil with evil, because those are the bad guys, and we got to get those bad guys, and they deserve it, right? That is incorrect. Tame our demons, tame these barbaric urges that we have, master ourselves, become a master of our emotions, a master of our behaviors, and behave better, be better, because we are better. And it is through being better that we win. That's how we win, gang. That's how we win. Okay, that's it for tonight. Thank you all for coming. I do appreciate you all for being here. I apologize again that Counterpoints wasn't here. He's coming tomorrow, apparently. See him tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.